This is Guardian Radio, your station for up-to-the-minute news, intelligent, interactive, and engaging conversation. 96.9 FM. The views and opinions of the hosts and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the position of the management and staff of Guardian Network.
The Revolution with Juan McCartney is sponsored by J.S. Johnson, Burger King, Commonwealth Bank, the Deposit Insurance Corporation, Kalina Financial Advisors Limited, Wendy's, Ron's Electric Motors, and the Water and Sewage Corporation.
New Bahamas, and welcome to the Revolution here on Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. My name is Juan McCartney. So good to have you with us. Okay, earlier this week I said we were going to talk about the public sector and public sector reform. That came up within the context of our debt and financial crisis that we are facing. And the fact that we simply, in the estimation of, I think, just about everybody who's paying close attention, cannot afford to go along the way in which we're going. So we had noted that in 2018, we were spending 30% of revenue on the public sector, just in wages and salaries. We're not even talking pensions, retirement. And so we want to look at ways to actually get the public sector firing properly or firing on all cylinders without costing us so very much. So the IDB wrote a report in 2018, and we'll talk about it. But what I want to point to is an analysis by the subcommittee of the Economic Recovery Committee that was appointed last year by former Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis. Minnis really liked to appoint committees. Him and Christie had that in common. Not sure if Brave Davis will be the same way. But the subcommittee, the Public Service Subcommittee, the Economic Recovery Committee, wrote a very interesting paper about public service reform, all right? And we're going to talk about that today. But first, I want to go through some of the salient points that were raised in the IDB's report in 2018, all right? So we're just going to go put a little bit into this. And then we're going to talk about the Economic Recovery Committee's paper. So in 2018, public service employees stood at 38,435. Now, that was a decline from where it stood pre-election in 2017 because, as much as they don't want to admit it, the F&M did not renew about 2,500 contracts. And if you would recall, they just, before the election, made 1,200 people permanent and pensionable, subject to a 12-month probation. Okay? According to the IMF, non-essential temporary workers account for as much as 30 to 40% of public employees. The head of the public service indicated that the public service is overstaffed by as much as 40%. The PS in the Ministry of Public Service indicates, while the staff numbers are high, the civil service had a hollow middle and lacked essential skills. The cabinet secretary and several permanent secretaries, as well as external stakeholders, reaffirmed this assessment of the lack of essential skills. In fact, the cabinet secretary described the cadre of deputy permanent secretaries as extraordinarily weak. In terms of how the cost of the civil service aligns with the country's overall economic situation, the following table shows that the wage bill as being fairly stable for the period 2015 to 2016. The wage bill absorbed 8.2% of GDP, 33.8% of revenues, and 32.4% of total expenditure in 2017. Let me repeat that for you. The public sector wage bill absorbed 8.2% of GDP, 33.8% of revenues, and 32.4% of total expenditure in 2017. Preliminary projections for 2018 estimate an increase of the wage bill to 8.4% of GDP, 37% of revenues, and 32% of expenditure. The IMF highlights significant increases in the wage bill associated with pre-election hiring. Okay? Now, the report by the IDB goes into a number of things, all right? But what I want to focus on at the moment is our efficiency and functional capacity and what some of the recommendations were from the IDB, okay? So the IDB says, in general, there are neither significant staff shortages nor overages. This says a comprehensive manpower audit should be conducted with a view to ascertaining what currently exists as well as what is required to deliver on the government's stated priority objectives. It says the overall cost of civil service staff is maintained within reasonable parameters that are compatible with the country's economic situation. Keep in mind, this was in 2018. All right. As far as the overall cost of the civil service, the IDB recommends the elimination of any remaining instances of officers continuing to receive payments, though no longer engaged in active service, as well as the timely resolution of disciplinary cases involving interdicted officers should be prioritized to reduce inefficiencies within the wage bill. The IDB noted that pay levels, including cash and non-cash benefits, are not excessive compared with labor market costs for any similar sector or grade. It says, recommend for pay levels that a clearly articulated compensation policy in tandem with a job evaluation exercise should be utilized to inform a simplified salary scale to secure both internal and external equality. Okay? Now, let's talk about functionality. If you would remember, out of a score of 100, the Bahamas Public Service got a 7. A 7 out of 100. All right? So the IDB points out that the technical level of the workforce is commensurate with a knowledge-based society. Skilled labor represents a significant proportion of the workforce. All right? The IDB says that, and this is, when I'm saying these critical points, they're not saying that we're doing great with this. They're saying what it is that they're measuring, all right? And I could give you the scores in what we're measuring. So, for instance, the technical level of the workforce is commensurate with a knowledge-based society. Skilled labor represents a significant portion of the workforce, okay? We scored at 5, okay? Job descriptions conform to managerial criteria rather than legal considerations or collective agreements. We scored a 7. Staff selection is based on competency profiles for the potential job holders. We got a 12. Okay? If we go to efficiency, when we were saying in general there are neither significant shortages or overage, we got a 3. Talking about the overall cost of the civil service is maintained within reasonable parameters. We got a 4. For pay levels, including cash and non-cash, not being excessive compared with labor market costs, we scored a 20. All right. And in terms of training subject to evaluation, we got a 27. All right. So we're not doing well in these categories. All right, here are some of the recommendations. So let's look at this one. Staff selection based on competency profiles. All right, you got a 12. All right. Let's see what the IDB says about performance. Employees' performance is evaluated by the organization and compared to the expected performance standards. We got an 18. The compensation structure, including cash and non-cash components, is adequate for attracting, motivating, and retaining suitable people with the necessary competencies for the positions that the organization requires. We got a 19. All right. In terms of performance standards, the IDB recommends that pursuant to the creation of competency-based job descriptions, performance standards aligned with national and ministerial level development objectives should be developed and promulgated. A comprehensive performance management system, including accountability measures, should be designed. As far as assessments, the use of assessments is initiated by the public sector should be continued, and the results utilized along with the outputs from the new performance management system to inform the government's training and development agenda. On pay structure, they say the results of the previously referenced job evaluation system should inform the creation of a simplified and equitable salary scale. The new system should include provisions for performance-based compensation. Okay? Now, giving you an idea of where we are with that, I want to look at what the Public Service Subcommittee of the Economic Recovery Committee said. Is the Economic Recovery Committee still a thing, or is it, no? I don't know. I'm going to read the paper for you. We'll go through it together. All right. This says, what does someone say? This sounds boring like Lang and Edwards. Well, you know my advice to you, right? You don't got to tell me. You could finish the sentence if you don't like what you're hearing, all right? So that don't impact me. So maybe today's show just ain't for you, and I'm not your entertainment for today. Monker comes on at 4. You can check him and be entertained, right? I'm here to help you understand today. This is the Economic Recovery Subcommittee on Public Service Reform. This was authored by Ed Fields. He's got a master's in public administration, finance. Dr. Nicolette Bethel, she's a PhD in social anthropology. And Dr. Yvette Pintard-Nuri, PhD in public administration and public affairs. And Ken Kerr, a BA in business administration. All right. This says, the charge by the Prime Minister of the Bahamas was to forward bold and innovative ideas with respect to all aspects of our economic reset. From our perspective, this releases us from the shackles of previous and traditional approaches and to present concepts that may seem absurd to the traditionalist. Our position is that the methodologies of the traditionalist have not yielded the desired outcomes. All right? The challenge, public service reform. This says, it has been acknowledged that for the past 20 years or more, the size and structure and efficiency of the Bahamian public service have been substantial barriers to the further development of the Bahamian nation. During the 20th century, successive governments used the public service as a job-generating entity, a means simultaneously to reward public supporters and to reduce strain on welfare and social services. As a result, too many workers in the public service are underqualified and poorly trained. Further, because many of them were hired through political and other connections, their work ethic leaves much to be desired. In consequence of this, the public is poorly served, while the public service is inefficient and economically unsustainable. The fear that overshadows any developing country's government is the condition-based takeover by the International Monetary Fund, or for that matter, any bailout entity. The most onerous of those conditions is that the public service must be right-sized, which, in the Bahamian situation, indicates a substantial reduction of the public service. The Bahamas is not alone here. In the Caribbean context in general, the bloating of the civil service as a matter of political expediency is common. As asserted by Paul Sutton in 2006, it's appropriate to speak of a Commonwealth Caribbean tradition of public administration that shares much with the British colonial past, but has also slowly evolved in accordance with the specific economic, social, and political environment in which it has operated. In most territories, this evolution has been akin to the Bahamian model, by which the public service was utilized as a means to offer newly independent citizens the opportunity to move from fields to the office in the space of a generation. While this achieved much in the way of economic expansion in the short term, over time it has resulted in a public sector labor force that is critically overstaffed, unproductive, inefficient, and an impediment to the further economic activity and growth of the country. There's little debate as to the truth of the foregoing in terms of the political reality. But public service reform has not yet taken place, in large part because of the political fallout that must inevitably accompany it. It is safe to say that the bookends for public service reform are ensuring that, on the other hand, a status quo of sorts is maintained, while on the other, politicians suffer as little political backlash as possible with respect to right-sizing, correct placement, and public sector expenditure stabilization and reduction. Bridging the gap between those bookends has hitherto appeared to be virtually impossible. Indeed, if only traditional methods of public service reform are employed, the government that implements them is guaranteed to suffer politically. And yet, hard choices must be made. What we do know are the following. First, the existing paradigm is not sustainable economically. Second, the existing paradigm does not meet the needs of the public good. Third, the existing paradigm will result in austerity measures that will be its undoing by external forces. So what do we do? In the context of the Economic Recovery Committee, it's recognized that the public service reform, both politically and as a matter of practicality, is a medium to long-term objective. The testing of these concepts will occur within the framework of strengthening the public service while developing the capacity for public institutions that are fit for purpose. The committee also believes that there's a way it can be achieved without the anticipated political fallout. The solution proposed is radical in its simplicity. Assess the contribution of each public servant to the efficiency of the agency for which they work, and wherever that contribution falls below an agreed upon threshold, send them home with full pay. What is proposed, therefore, is not the termination or laying off of the unproductive public servant, but rather a redeployment of that public servant. The proposal rests on the assumption that not only are those inefficient individuals not advancing the work of the public sector, but they are also actively impeding it. It starts from the proposition that if they were to be removed from active duty, processes would be handled more efficiently, and the public needs would be met in less time, thus increasing productivity and government revenue. There are several considerations in the pursuit of this concept that provide impetus for action. 1. Based on a previous manpower audit, it is estimated that the current mean salary is approximately $35,000, with a most frequent salary for women of approximately $13,000 and men $20,000. The mean age of the public servant is 50, and more than 58% of public servants are over the age of 45. The extranumerary employee has the opportunity to retool and make a positive contribution to society. The concept simultaneously will allow the strengthening of the public service by an incremental introduction of these pilot projects that are focused on improving the effectiveness of the service, its process and systems through training and coaching. And this concept provides a means to develop the institution of the public service through the allocation and deployment of the financial, human, and material resources to meet changing developmental needs. We do not propose that the idea be implemented wholesale. Studies have suggested that pilot projects of initiatives are generally more successful than system-wide approaches in environments like the Caribbean. We propose that a pilot project be designed to test those concepts and to measure the outcomes so as to determine the viability of the application. A part of the experiment has already been conducted due to COVID-19. It did not require discussion for its scope and metrics as it was forced on us, and from that experiment came several observations. First, some people work from home. Second, some people were sent home and did not work. Third, processes were streamlined without having to go through the usual bureaucratic review and approvals. 4, processes were digitized in record time. 5, goods and services were delivered to the citizenry in record time. And the government still functioned under those conditions. Building upon these observations, it's proposed to design a pilot project in no more than 3 government agencies. The findings of this project will be used to draft a range of approaches to public service reform. The intention is that this method of reforming the public service will build the bridge between the appeasement of the status quo of the public sector and the cushion for the political directorate. All right, so before we go any further with it, they're trying to figure out, and I think it's a little too comfortable, the approach that they want to take, but I understand where they're coming from it. They're trying to figure out how to actually streamline the public service and make the thing efficient without any particular government suffering political fallout. Now, if you remember the discussion we were having before, I think it was yesterday we were talking about this, or it might have been the day before, I'm not sure. We were saying that it's going to take a very bold government that's willing to be completely wiped out and voted out of office to make the change that we need in the shortest time possible. Okay? So this seeks to not take so radical approach to the public sector, but saying, let's examine if we can do this in some parts of the public sector and then apply it to the broader public sector without having the fallout for the political directorate. Now, to me, if you're talking Economic Recovery Committee, and this ain't no shade on Dr. Bethel or Ed Fields or Dr. Nuri. If you're talking Economic Recovery Committee business, right, and we're going, hey, man, the economy shrank by 14.5%. You dig what I'm saying? The debt to GDP ratio is now over 100%, okay? We estimate. And we are now at a point where we're about to have the foreign debt we've taken on eclipse the domestic debt, which means that the peg for our dollar could be in peril. All right? Also, if we cannot find the principal balloon payments for this foreign debt on time and cannot restructure those loans, we face a balance of payment crisis, a default on our obligations, credit downgrades, and a structured plan that will cause us to make the public service changes anyway that we're now afraid to make. So I get that they're trying to strike a balance and that they are drifting between the absolute need for the public service to be reformed because it's overstaffed. You heard that people say by as much as 40%. The deputy permanent secretaries, they say, are not knowledgeable or skilled enough. And therefore, we continue to keep on the permanent secretaries, all right, even past the age where, they would normally retire, okay? So they're trying to strike a balance. In my estimation, somebody's got to bite the bullet. No government wants to get voted out of office. And yes, political parties exist to govern and gain the government. But if we don't fix it, we're going to be screwed. And so my thing is, it's better to fix it and lose an election, because you're probably going to lose it anyway, how trends have been going. It's better to fix it and lose an election than just try to play at it in order to try to secure your political future. All right? Now, I'm going to go through a few of the recommendations, all right? And I'll let you get some feedback in too, if you want. If not, if you want to be entertained, I can help you. It's just not going to work. We're talking about public sector reform today. And why is it important? Because of all the things I just said, right? This is what's dragging us down. The wage bill of the public sector, the pension bill, the state-owned enterprises, and also our debt servicing bill. Right now, debt servicing will eclipse $500 million this year, okay? We're spending 30% of revenue, it's possibly more now, on the public sector. So it's just not a sustainable model that we're engaged in. And the kooky part about it is that everybody expects to get something from the government if they supported them. And nobody thinks about the future of the nation. They're worried about their own self-interest. And I get that you're concerned about your own self-interest, but if you're in public service, then your personal interests have to come second, right? If you're talking about the government and the nation, and what you want to do for the nation, right, then your personal interests, your familial interests have to come second. Okay? Recommendations: reform of physical workspaces. It has been long recognized that the brick and mortar 9-to-5 model for both the private and public sector employee is obsolete. As such, our model recommends that employees be permitted or required to work from home as far as possible or practicable. The advantages offered by this recommendation are as follows. The need for extensive office space for public agencies will be reduced, and with it, the cost of renting and maintaining that space. So let's stick a pin in that, right? Right now, and I'm not sure how much we're spending, I have to sift through the budget, but we're spending easily tens of millions of dollars a year renting office space. So, for instance, the Department of Immigration, all right, it's been there for many, many, many years. We don't own that building. Not only do we not own that building, but during the last Christie administration, another space for immigration was constructed by a private contractor and a lease signed by the government, which we will ultimately be paying for, or if we have not paid for it yet, to the tune of many more millions of dollars. So instead of the government saying, let's build us a building and it could be ours for the Department of Immigration, we're currently renting a building and we're paying somebody who built us another building, right? Or we're contracted to pay somebody who built us another building. The Department of Labor, yes, in the old City Market building in Palmdale, who do you think owns that? Not the government of the Bahamas. Where Keith Bell's nice, pretty offices, yeah? That building is owned principally by one Sebastian Bastian. Okay? And the list goes on and on. So if we don't have to have these workers occupy office spaces, we then save money on rents and leases. We save money on office supplies, right? And some of the bargain agreements have different things in them, like you pay for lunch and all this other stuff. You save money on all these things. A lot of what I'm saying, a lot of you are going to start to have chills and shivers, right? Because you can't fathom that we're not all going to feed off the trough of government largesse as far as the building owners, as far as the public sector employees, etc. Okay? So that's the recommendation. Work from home as much as possible. Do all of y'all need to be at the Department of Immigration? No shade to the Department of Immigration. Not everybody who's in the office. Do they? Because when COVID-19 hit, you didn't need to be there. We didn't have to do all this in-person stuff, it turns out. But yet the Department of Immigration still functioned. Same thing with the Department of Labor. All right? Now, let's continue. The advantages of workers working from home as much as possible, or practical, is workers can set their own hours and thereby be able to be present for their families and their children, thus reducing lost hours spent on school runs and the like. All right? So you know the school run is the legit, I only coming back to work to clock in, you dig? Like, school get out at 2:45. Like, so my daughter's school get out at 2:45. Right? You a public sector employee might say, okay, the school will get out at 2:45. I got, traffic bad, so I got to leave here at 2 o'clock. Right? And then we'll pick them up for 2:45. Then the traffic still match. I got to drop them home. Right? That's another 30 minutes. I got to get back to work. That might be another 20 minutes. You see what I'm saying? So you coming back to work about 4 o'clock. And by that time, ain't too much getting done for the rest of the day. Right? So only what the boss say gotta get done, getting done. All right? So another advantage they believe of working from home will be that productivity will rise as opportunities for excessive socialization and the accompanying distractions will be removed or reduced, right? So you ain't gonna stop by everybody's desk and chit-chat and sell your church supper ticket, right? And the raffle book and all this. You ain't gotta gossip about what's going on with homegirl over there and how this her third baby for the third man in 5 years, right? You ain't gonna do all that. Talk about who's sweethearting, right? I'm not trying to say that's what you guys do all that. I'm just saying. You don't have to do all that because they ain't up in your face, right? Y'all do that over WhatsApp as opposed to hanging up. It says the implication of this recommendation is that attendance at work will no longer be adequate as the primary measure of value for the worker. Rather, it'll have to be replaced with productivity. Evaluative instruments will have to be revised accordingly. So you showing up to work no longer means that you're doing your job. Okay? We're not going to look at it, well, Janet, you had 35 days absent now, this year, and you got to work on that. No. We ain't got to monitor whether she at work or whether she show up or not. We're going to monitor how much work you got done. And you can track it because everything's digitized, which we're going to talk about in a moment. Okay? We got to take a break. We'll be back on the other side.
Summer is heating up, and Burger King Nassau is bringing the flavor. Introducing our all-new take on a classic chicken sandwich, the Barbecue Swiss Crispy King. Our new sandwich is full of smoky and tangy flavor and features our crispy chicken patty with tangy chipotle sauce, onion rings, bacon, Swiss cheese, lettuce, and tomato, plus a smoky barbecue sauce on a soft potato bun. The new Barbecue Swiss Crispy King chicken sandwich with fries and a Pepsi is a summer treat you will love to eat, but only available for a limited time and only at Burger King Nassau, where taste is king.
Let me ask you a few questions. What's your name?
Pam.
Favorite food?
Steak.
Beer or wine?
Wine.
Is your money safe?
It's under my bed, so I guess so.
Are you serious?
Yeah, why?
Unless your money is in a bank or credit union that's a member of the Deposit Insurance Corporation, there's no guarantee it's safe.
Yeah, but what if something happens to the bank?
Your Bahamian dollar deposits are insured up to $50,000, so you'd still be ahead. Plus, your mattress might catch fire. Then what?
Man, those banks and credit unions are looking good right about now.
Visit the DIC's website at www.dic.bs. Protection for your money, guaranteed with DIC.
October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Other than skin cancer, breast cancer is the most common cancer in women. Breast cancer is also the second leading cause of cancer death in women after lung cancer. Can you help? Yes, you can. You can encourage women to take steps to help lower their risk of developing breast cancer and help find it early, when it might be easier to treat. You can also help connect women facing breast cancer to patient programs and services they might need throughout their treatment. We encourage you to share these messages during Breast Cancer Awareness Month and throughout the year. 2021 has been a powerful reminder that we are all in this together, and our choices and actions have the power to protect the most vulnerable among us in a big way. By working together, we can inspire hope and become a force for good and help create greater awareness during Breast Cancer Awareness Month. To participate in our upcoming supplement, contact Guardian Media's advertising department or your account executive today.
You invest in your children, your home, and your community. But are you investing in your financial future? At CFAO, we specialize in investment management, retirement planning, mutual funds, and private wealth management. Our team of experts never stops helping you plan for tomorrow. Because tomorrow begins today. Call us at 502-7010 to see what our financial advisors can do for you. CFAO, growing wealth for future generations.
Are you ready for school? Well, Marco's Pizza is here to help. Get ready for the new school year with our Back to School special. With our quality key ingredients, enjoy a steamy, mouth-watering, extra-large, one-topping pizza. 1 cent a square or a 1-liter Coke product for just $18. Kick off the semester the Primo way. Perfect for you and your family. Every store, every day, the Italian way.
At Ron's Electric Motors, they repair and rewind all major brands of electric motors, including water pumps, generators, and the generator's back end, welding machines, electric lifts, air compressors, battery chargers, and more. They're equipped to handle up to 850 kilowatts and rewind up to 450 horsepower motors. They're conveniently located on the corner of Wolf and Clarence Roads and are open weekdays 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., Saturdays till noon. They offer 24 hours emergency assistance. You can reach them at 242-356-0249.
This is Guardian Radio, 96.9 FM. Fresh news, smart talk, all day.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Revolution here on Guardian Radio, 96.9 FM. We're talking public sector reform, all right? So you've been listening to what the Economic Recovery Committee had to say. They got a lot more to say. We're going to talk about that. But one of their first recommendations is to have people work from home. As many people as can work from home as possible, and you'd have a good idea of that because of the way in which we operated when we were under our most stringent COVID-19 measures, right? There are some people who cannot work from home, and we fully recognize that, okay? So you need to actually go to the Registrar General's office to go get documents. So a lot of them won't be able to work from home, okay? You got to go to the courts, right? So all the people who work in the court system, they're needed there, so they won't be able to work from home, all right? But you have a lot of people who are able to work from home. There are a lot of people, let's say the police force, there are a lot of civilian staff on the police force could work from home. They're doing clerical matters. So you look at who all can work from home and make them work from home when you develop your digital portals. It wasn't something that was feasible even, say, 15 years ago, right? But it's doable today. And so before I go any further, I'm going to get some of your feedback. You can call 323-6232, 325-4316, 325-4259. Good afternoon. Welcome to The Revolution.
Good afternoon, Mr. McCartney. How you doing?
Hey, I'm great. How's it going?
You know, I listened to something yesterday after I called. Somebody mentioned something about Sparky expects to get something because he helped with campaigning for the new government or maybe the last government and so forth. Mr. McCartney, let me explain it like this. My mother died when I was 15. Most of my family, everybody went their different way. I practically grew up alone, working my butt off on many different employment sites and this and that and the next. I have not worked from 2011. I've been living off of national insurance, thank God. I invested and Mr. Pendleton opened up the National Insurance Board when he did. And a lot of people live off of national insurance today. But still, I don't expect nobody to give me nothing for nothing. I don't want no freebie. I'm just looking for anybody or make the situation in the country as I could find something to do, to make some income, to take care of myself and my family and whatever else have you, make my life comfortable. I don't want no PLP, no member of parliament, or nothing to come out of my house and give me no fridge, no stove, no $100 bills. But what I'm saying to you, Mr. McCartney, if you make a commitment to the country when you gave us this independence, and you said that we are an inheritance of this land, if there is land out there, and I know you don't like me talking about that, if there's land out there for us to lease, to do farming, and I said I wanted my hobby to be farming, and I've been asking for land from back in Mr. Pendleton's time. Give me 1, 2, 3 acres of land where I could go down in the morning, plant some tomatoes and so forth, feed my family, feed my neighbors, and sell some to make a living. Then do that for me, rather than giving the land to people who could build churches on it, apartments on it, stuff. Then the second page of the document.
Okay, Sparky, we're not getting anywhere with that. You're just having some sort of catharsis, and normally that'd be fine, but let me get to some people who are actually going to speak to the topic at hand. Okay, this says... Oh, this asked me for the text line. 422-4796. Okay. This says that this is very true. Moscow owns the Monarch House and also transport, financial services, and trade, local government, and disaster preparedness is also renting from Manx Corporate Center. All of these ministries have to pay for parking at the center. Yep. Yeah, so it's just a lot of unnecessary money that we're spending. It says government should enact all recommendations. Do it now, just off election. Hopefully the masses will see the positive side prior to 2026. It says, Juan, our labor laws have a redundancy ceiling of 24 weeks pay or 2 weeks pay for every year of service. Highest in the world. Figure out how much it would cost us to reduce the public service by, say, 20%. Please don't choke on the mic when you get the figure. This says that, hey, Juan, can't the government build a huge building for their offices and have space to rent to bring in more money? Make too much sense, eh? They could do that. But this is, you see, and this is why I started off with talking about it. We've developed a system of political patronage through the public service, and all this stuff is included. The rents, the parking. This says, great show as usual, Juan. You know, I'm a fan of the show, but why are you trying to mess up the school run for everyone? The 3 o'clock lunch break is the best lunch break of all lunch breaks. It says government rents buildings so they don't have to spend any money on maintenance bills. Well, they don't even maintain the buildings that they got. It says move immigration and labor to the BTC building. Okay. It says who will pay for the employees' internet, air conditioning, computer, and electrical bill. Okay? Well, it's like this. You could work out a figure around that and figure out a compensation model to where we say, since we're saving X amount, you could be compensated this way for working from home. It says, we parents and guardians are still looking forward for our children going back to face-to-face classroom learning. We surely are. We surely are. It says, kindly confirm what is the portfolio of Sebastian that was appointed to him by the previous F&M administration. He was, he still is, as far as I'm aware, non-resident ambassador to South Africa, right? It says, good and crucial topic today, Juan. The ignorant can tune out. Perhaps the political party should make the radical changes early in their term, then hopefully those changes improve the country in time for the next election. If they make it that long, that's what I keep saying. If we don't make the changes as soon as possible, the IMF will make the changes for us. Try it under our terms and control first. And no wasting time on football pools, Juan. Talking about picks on Thursday, Friday going over Thursday game and weekend picks. And Monday talking about weekend game recap. And prep for Monday Night Football. Then Tuesday recapping the whole thing. Mama says foosball is the devil. I got to send in my picks, too. They're due at 5 today. I'm doing terribly this season. I'm at the bottom. I'm like where Kermit normally is. I'm usually in the top 5. Maybe the father's attempting to humble me. All right. I see more of your text. But we got to go to the news break. Good afternoon, McCartney. What's going on with the demolition of the Churchill building? Was that more urgent than emphasis placed on PMH and healthcare facilities? I don't think it's one or the other. I don't think it's a situation of one or the other. They're demolishing the Churchill building. They should, right? Now what you do, take the wrecking ball or whatever, and just keep moving east, right? Keep moving east on both sides of the street, all right? Till you hit Green Parrot? No, it's not Green Parrot. Till you hit 601, all right? Keep moving east. We got to go to break. Sorry. We go to news break, and we'll be back on the other side.
This is Guardian Radio, 96.9 FM, Nassau, Bahamas.
Wait, you know what's going down tomorrow?
Nobody, what happening?
Joe bringing these knives to school. He could do Junior in.
For what?
Wait, he fooled with Joe girl.
Mother sick. And you know Junior don't back down for nothing. So that means you got a big fight tomorrow.
So whose side you on?
Side? I trying to stay in school, not Simpson Pen. We gotta tell somebody about this fight.
Tell somebody? I ain't no snitch. I mean cool, you know.
Wait, if you so cool, then you need to stay in school and stay out of the fight.
Yeah, but if I don't hang on Joe's side, how many boys coming for me next?
All right, so we definitely gotta tell somebody. We gotta prevent the fight.
What I say, I don't want nobody call me snitch.
We could just call Crime Stoppers. You could report what you know, and nobody gotta know it's you.
So how did I wait?
All you gotta do is call them, or you text them through the Crack Crime Bahamas app, and nobody can know it's you.
Then the police come looking for me for more info, and when they finish with them, Joe them coming looking for me?
When you call Crime Stoppers, the call go directly to Miami, and they don't ask nothing about you. Then you can get the pen from them, and you can claim a reward later using that same pen.
Plus, everything's scrambled, so nobody can read what you're saying.
Call 328-8477 from Nassau or 242-300-8477 from the Family Islands.
This is Guardian Radio, 96.9 FM. Fresh news, smart talk, all day.
Good afternoon, Bahamas. Welcome back to the Revolution here on Guardian Radio, 96.9 FM. My name is Juan McCartney. So good to have you with us. We were talking public service reform and recommendations put forward by the Economic Recovery Subcommittee on the Civil Service. Okay? We're going to get back to that, and I'm going to take your text messages. But first, let me say this. How much weed are y'all smoking out here? 100 crocus sacks of marijuana found in one spot in the back of one truck? Listen, I'm not here to judge you, and I'm all for legalizing it, but it occurs to me that too many of you may be partaking from the chalice far too frequently. All right? My understanding is a little goes a long way. I do believe quite a number of you may have dependency issues and should probably seek counseling. Okay. So the first recommendation put forward was to send extra numerary, meaning the employees that weren't contributing positively to the public sector, to send them home with full pay. Okay? Pay them out, send them home. You got the money that we paid you out with, you can go find something else to do. Okay? Because this job, it's not for you. And another recommendation was to require as many employees as possible to work from home. Okay? Let me do some of your text messages, then we'll get to some of the other recommendations. We can get through this today. It says, so Juan, what will happen to the 99-year leases they rent from their buddies for kickbacks? It'll never happen. Our economy is set up to provide for the chosen few. They will never do any of the practical things in the report, just like our BPL will never change from fossil fuel. Nothing will ever change. I'm saving my nest egg because this country is about to explode. Just me, I will not hurt. Just abandon the whole concept of the collective, eh? This says, I'm getting slush fund vibes from all this free knowledge you're giving, good sir. Hashtag go deeper. Since we implemented these changes, we would have a minimal amount of civil servants or government workers, and I mean minimal, like virtually no one, because you know and I know a good number of folks got government jobs, not because of what they know, but who they know. It's sad. Why can't we digitize these documents and use the virtual online system more? I believe we could if we went into that space, like in Estonia. Singapore's a good model. No, we're not them, but there are things we can learn from them to tailor to ourselves. We got a phone call? We'll take a phone call, and then I'll get back to the report. Good afternoon. Welcome to the Revolution.
Hi, Brother Vaughn. This is Simeon Hall. How are you?
Hey, I'm great. Bishop, how's it going?
I haven't talked to you for a little while.
I know.
Since you gone with the multi-rich, you forget me.
I do apologize.
Bless you, bless you. When you come before the king, remember me, man.
I shall.
Bless you. I happen to have served on the last marijuana commission.
Okay.
And I served as a pastor. I'm speaking to the busload thing you talked about. It's in the news.
Right.
Those kind of people should be put under the jail. But that was not at all what we considered. What we considered was, should you take the money out of marijuana, you might lead to some reduction in it, and so small amounts of marijuana should be allowed with proper regularization.
Yes.
Should be allowed.
Agreed.
That's the compromise.
Yes.
The drug war has been going on for before you were born.
Mm-hmm.
And different countries use it as they see fit. But how do we put a dent in this thing? I thought the call to hear that a busload was found somewhere. People think that the commission was to just make carte blanche marijuana. That's not at all what was there.
Right.
I was there as a pastor to say we need to save these young men. And how can we reach them? Particularly those who are in prison waiting for bail and all that stuff, and they are caught with a split. And so I think the conversation needs to be had. Can we regularize this thing? We don't do well in that area. That was the hesitance. But no, I just wanted to make that comment.
Absolutely.
Never once was it to make it something where everybody walking around. When we went to Jamaica, we thought you see everybody smoking. But that's not true.
Right.
With regularization, you have where you must go into some place, and if you want to use it, it took the money out of it. The gang wars has to do with you coming on my turf for my money.
Right.
And so I'll shoot you. And that's the kind of ongoing debate that needs to be had.
I agree, totally. Thank you so much, Bishop Paul. I totally agree with you. I want to talk about it further, too, about the entire aspect of the legalization of marijuana and how we can avoid criminalizing young men and how you kind of suck the money out of that drug market, that black market drug trade, if you did regularize it.
I think we should criminalize some people, like they said, with the box of marijuana, but the young fellow with his spliff,
no.
I think you need to find a way to rehabilitate him into society. Bless you, man.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Bishop Paul. I absolutely agree with you. Very cogent point. Says the people stress, Mr. Juan. Trust and believe. Just be grateful. Our youths aren't strung out on opioids and painkillers. I've seen Skid Row firsthand. Horrific. Well, I mean, I'm happy that they're not on opioids. Certainly. Let me see here. This says, Juan, I am in IT, and working from home for most is not as easy as it sounds. There are many, many issues with internet. You need a laptop at home, power issues, just to name a few. True, those are considerations. I don't think those are insurmountable challenges, though. Juan, can you explain the difference between inheritance of responsibility as stewards instead of inheritance of actual assets and property? It's crowned land. Like the days of feudalism, we occupy the land. My thoughts. We won't get into that today. Do that for me. We're gonna go left if we do that. So send that to me perhaps tomorrow. We can get into it. Says I'm all for it. One, the civil service is too bloated. I heard that 60 cents out of every dollar that comes in goes to paying government salaries. Well, that and pensions and emoluments. The work from home model can make sure they're actually doing what they're being paid to do. And this says, where's the $250,000 deposit that was supposed to go to vaccines? Will the Freedom of Information Office be opened? We just did a story on the Freedom of Information Office. It looks like that's going to be a few months away, at best. At the moment, all we're getting from the new incoming government is travel, review, presentation, and speeches. We're looking for productivity. This says, one, the government should stop renting that Greek watchtower. Sell it to Brinsomnet for a car loan, bank, immigration. They need their own buildings to save millions of dollars. I gotta tell you, the view from that building, though, is just spectacular. You ever been in the office there, the minister's office at immigration there? It's amazing. Okay, let's get back to the report. I'm gonna try to get through this. Here's another recommendation by the Economic Recovery Subcommittee on Public Service Reform. Digitization of governmental functions. The government of the Bahamas, albeit not as swiftly as is desirable, is already engaged in the digitization of its functions. Our model recommends that these be fast-tracked in our pilot study. The advantages offered by this recommendation are as follows. 1, greater efficiencies. 2, reduction of corrupt temptations and practices. 3, swift delivery of services. 4, savings to the government. 5, increased revenue. Okay, so let's stick a pin in there, right? Now, the last administration did well in its digitization efforts. COVID-19 sped it up, but they had gotten a $30 million loan from the IDB to deal with digitization and the Freedom of Information stuff. And they did pretty good, right? So we now can get your driver's license renewed online. You can book your road traffic appointment online, upload all your documents and everything like this. You can apply for your business license online, which was something that the Christie administration had started anyway. You can now get a lot of government services online. You can apply for your birth certificate, wedding certificate, or whatever you call it, online, right? And just go pick it up at the Registrar General's department, right? So particularly for business license purposes, right? Dealing with the business license process, for me, and I don't think because they know it's me, because it's all computer, maybe they do know it's me. For me, it's one of the most simple things in government. Now, I don't make no bunch of money from my businesses yet, but for me, it's very simple. All right? So, and everything's digital. I haven't been to the Department of Inland Revenue in years. So the government has done well on digitizing things and making services more rapid. And I think they should commit more fully to that. Now, here's the issue. The government of the Bahamas, because they want to reduce theft, right, as well as corruption in terms of I come and give you some money for you to do X, Y, Z. It ain't going to happen because you got to do it yourself, right? In order to reduce that, the government intends to go cashless with the majority of its services. Now, here's the issue with that. Going cashless in a society that's not very saturated with people who have access to opening bank accounts is not good unless you can find a way to accommodate the unbanked. Okay? COVID-19 has forced us into a place where now we're more comfortable, even the elderly, not all of them, but even the elderly who are, who didn't grow up with computers so readily accessible. I'm not playing, right? I was using an older laptop for my kids' virtual school, right, earlier this year. And you know how laptops before had like the DVD tray on it? You pop out the DVD tray? My son legit looked at me and he goes, "What's that for?" And I go, "It's for a DVD." And he goes, "What?" Right? So we were somewhere the other day. We were at my mom's house. And there's a stack of DVDs, and he goes, "What are these?" Right? And he's seen DVDs before, but it's been so long since we've actually used a DVD player. They have no the concept is wiped from his mind, right? So he's just streaming. Okay. So what we're gonna have to do in order to make sure to accommodate those who are unbanked is facilitate them digitally, most likely through mobile applications. Okay? My wife's father is 86 years old. He's now gotten more comfortable using WhatsApp because my wife couldn't go to see him as frequently as she wanted to during the COVID-19, all right? And if he can learn it, then certainly others of his generation can learn it too, all right? He'll need help, but that's what you got, your grandson for, whatever, your godchild, like they can help you, all right? So we should get to a place where we have digitization of just about every government service. I can't think of anything that we couldn't facilitate more quickly through it being digitized. Maybe you can, I can't. So I think that we definitely need to move in that direction, all right? Because it's going to increase revenue, reduce theft, all right? The government will have a lot of savings. You don't have the office space. You don't have the physical presence needed, okay? Now, here's a serious recommendation, a very big recommendation, all right? And this is the most drastic other recommendations. We touched on it earlier, but we'll go in depth with it. Digitization of, dumb one. Removal of extranumerary workers from the working environment. Right? Hold on. What are you saying? What are you saying? All right. So, yes. Let's understand. Okay. So this says this recommendation is the corollary of both the first recommendation, which is work from home, and digitization. When workers are freed to work from home and are no longer required to report to a physical location as a condition of their employment, those people who are currently unproductive are likely to become even more so. Further, the expansion of digital services will, over time, reduce and change the labor requirements of public agencies. Our model recommends that those people who fall into these categories be retained on the government payroll as an incentive to keep them away from the working environment. Okay. Let me help you process this, okay? Remember we said that this is trying to seek the least amount of political fallout? Here's what they're saying. The people who are least productive, keep paying them, but remove them from the work environment. Even though they do acknowledge that if you remove them from the work environment and they work from home, they're going to become even more unproductive. And they probably won't be needed as we'll have more digitized services. But they're suggesting keeping these people on. Let's kind of get into their rationalization, okay? So this says, our third proposal may seem like a drastic measure, and we acknowledge that it is counterintuitive in many respects. That it surely is, okay? However, it in fact acts upon a truth that we have for too long been reluctant to tackle. That many public servants are already being paid for their unproductivity. All right, let's get into it. It says the Bahamas is not alone in this reality. Anne-Marie Bissessar has described the combination of these factors as the forgotten factor that has held back reform in Trinidad and Tobago. According to Bissessar, the attitude toward work has also been the subject of comment, with many analysts pointing to the reluctance to delegate by senior officials on the one hand, and the reluctance to take responsibility by those lower down on the other. A poor work ethic expressed as low achievement and high absenteeism has also been identified as a persistent characteristic. A former Bahamian cabinet minister recently buttressed this perspective by stating that many constituents appear to want government jobs simply to ensure steady income while free to pursue other revenue streams outside the public sector. Y'all some serious people out here, son. If that is the case, and there's every evidence to show that it is, then there is little to be lost in sending unproductive workers home with pay, benefits, and pension entitlement. Okay? So they're bucking all factors that would have you consider that this is a bad idea. They're saying, here's our idea, all right? We're already paying people who are unproductive on the job now. Let's let them stop working, but continue to pay them and give them benefits. Why is this option valid? The Economic Recovery Subcommittee asked. There are several unquestionable benefits. But first, let's create a view of what this would look like. Assume a department of 10 persons. It's audited for productivity, where productivity is measured by the number of documents processed in a specified period of time. The results reveal that productivity in the department is extremely low. Assume further that the results also reveal that departmental regulations require all 10 persons have to sign off on a given document, when in fact only 5 are truly necessary to move the document through the system. The requirement of accumulating all 10 signatures has resulted in a situation in which each document takes at least 10 days for the approval to be completed. Now, assume that the 5 people whose signatures are not strictly necessary to the process are removed from the department. An increase in productivity is almost certainly to be achieved. Okay, let's stick a pin in it. They're saying that you're already paying these people. They're in the system. They're the reason, the unproductive people are the reason the system doesn't work. Remove them from the system and watch the efficiencies of the system grow dramatically. All right? This says, to illustrate with an example from real life. One of the authors of this document recently experienced an 8-month delay in the processing of an urgent document. After persistent inquiries into its progress, it was revealed that it had spent a considerable amount of that period sitting on a single officer's desk after the document had already been approved by everyone else required to see it. The officer in question offered no visible added value to the process and indeed impeded its progress. If 5 of the 10 officers were sent home and the most efficient officers remained on the job, the documents would be processed faster, revenues would be realized at a greater speed, office space requirements would be reduced, fewer office supplies would be required, and less energy would be expended. Now, a lot of people don't want to really show up to work and they want to get paid, and this is essentially what this is saying to do. But you got to realize you're lousy if they're paying you to stay away from the workplace. You must realize that you should change your ways and you should seek to become a better worker. If I pay you not to come to work, something is dramatically wrong with you. Fundamentally flawed in you and your work ethic. We can take a phone call. Sure, there's more to get through, but we'll take a phone call. Where's my headphones? Good afternoon. Welcome to the Revolution. Hello, good afternoon. Are you there? Okay, you're not there? No problem. The numbers are 323-6232, 325-4316, and 325-4259. All right. So it talks about costs and benefit to the government, and we're going to get into that. All right. Let's do a couple of calls. So cost and benefit to sending you away from the workplace, but still paying you. Good afternoon. Welcome to the Revolution.
Good afternoon, Juan. This is Gina.
Hey, Gina. What's happening?
Everything cool. How are you?
I'm great.
I had to call in on this subject because this hits me to the heart, and I'm going to tell you a true story. When I worked to a very, very big hotel, I'm not going to call its name, I had many, many staff, and throughout my life and my different jobs, there was time, not in this hotel, but I wish I could have done it in a hotel because I just had to wait, like you said, to pay them out to get out, because they are infectious diseases.
Wow.
And what they do is they go and they tell everybody, especially in a union, that ain't your job description. You don't have to do that. Why are you doing that? And all these people who actually really, really want it, they love their job and they want to be productive, but they feel as if they're going to be shamed by somebody else, so they don't really do the extra mile thing. And it was a job that I went to, and I did pay 4 employees to be home. And when they went home, you should see how different everything changed, because the other 10 employees, went into full gear and we was jamming. We tripled sales and it was totally worth it. So I get it. I get it completely. You feel like why I'm paying for these lazy people, but it's because of the negativity that spread. It's totally worth it, unfortunately.
So they're holding up the process.
Yes, just because of the fact that they tell these people, oh, why are you doing this? Oh, they'll be on property at 8:55. When they start 9, they're starting at 9:01.
Excellent. So you think it's a good idea?
I don't think I can't say it's a good idea, but I know that it works. Because some people can't afford it. If they worked in a place for 20 years and you have to pay them out because they're very strategic on keeping on the line of you can't hire me, you can't write me up because technically I am doing my job description and what I'm supposed to be doing. And they stay right on that line. So you can't get them out legitimately or with cause. So if you pay them out and they've been with you for 15 years, that's 2 years salary you have to give them.
Right. It's too expensive, pricey.
Right. You can't do that. You know what I mean? So you say, you know what, let me pay you a couple of dollars. You stay home and just keep away from the rest of them.
Well, thanks, Gina. I appreciate it very much. Thank you for calling. We get another call on the line. Let's do it. Good afternoon. Welcome to the Revolution.
Good afternoon, Juan. How you doing today?
I'm great. How's it going?
Great. I want to make a comment on the public service discussion you're having right now.
Sure.
I spent 14 years in the public service and in a particular government department. During that time, I was able to liaise with other officers from other areas on my party, and we would basically discuss what we think is wrong with our various departments. And across the board, all of them are the same issues, okay? One of them is, for instance, a person comes in, you submit a document to be processed by that agency, and if that person, that supervisor that is there, that receives that document, if he is not there at the time, you could wait until for 3, 4, 5 months when that person goes on while that person is on vacation.
Wow.
And I think that that's really that's crazy, and that holds back productivity. Since you're discussing productivity, there's heavy compartmentalization in the public service, and most of these managers, they guard their territory. This is my territory. Nobody signs this from my desk unless I give. We need some like a due system where you can, if one person is on vacation, another person is able to sign that document.
Right.
But that's some people shamelessly guard their turf. They don't do any of my work until I come back. So that is out there trying to submit a document or trying to have a document process. It's just crazy, and that is hurting morale too, because there are times when I've been out as part of the force, and I've been out. We've done work we did with scientific reports, turned them in, and all of that, and
nothing happens.
Nothing ever happens.
Wow, that's crazy. Well, thank you for that perspective. All right, let me get into some more of the paper. I'll try to get through it all today. All right, costs and benefits to the government. The immediate reaction to our proposal may be that it will not save the government any money, and therefore it does not make sense. The rebuttal to this objection is that we are not proceeding immediately from the perspective of reducing costs in the short term, but rather from the perspective of increasing productivity, efficiency, and revenue. Further, we should remember that costs are not limited to monetary expenditure. The current system is burdened with innumerable invisible costs. The cost of maintaining spaces for workers who do not pull their weight, the cost of excessive bureaucracy, the cost to the overall economy because of the difficulty in doing business, and the sluggish collection of much-needed revenue, which comes from underproductivity and petty corruption, both the results of overstaffing of government agencies. We propose that the current government expenditure with respect to compensation will not grow, but will decrease over time, and that we will see an immediate increase in productivity and efficiency. We anticipate the net results will be a decrease in overhead, an increase in the ease of doing business, a reduction in petty corruption, and an overall increase in revenue over the short term. Over the long term, however, we anticipate even greater benefits given the findings of the previous manpower audit. It is likely that the majority of those persons who will fall into the stay-at-home category will be 45 years of age or older, have a salary between $13,000 and $35,000. According to our proposal, then, the long-term costs of maintaining the salaries of these people will decrease steadily over the next 20 years, leading up to retirement, and will decrease still more as these people transition from salary to pension. We further propose the following conditions to offset the costs of the sent-home workers. Early retirement packages with full pension in lieu of continued salary be offered to those within 5 years of retirement. Salaries and benefits be fixed, i.e. no further eligibility for increases in salary and benefits for those workers who are sent home. Retention of full pension, but a reduction of salaries would be offered if these workers secure employment elsewhere. Other factors to be considered are increased wages to those who are invited to stay, who are either promoted or take on an increased workload. Funding would come from savings. In addition, we recommend that any worker who's identified as falling in the sent-home category be given a set of incentives to assist them in crafting their future careers, which may include, but not be limited to, access to BTVI and UB for personal upgrading, access to small business loans and other incentives under government economic development programs, consideration for government contracts over the duration of their continued employment, and counseling to provide them with an awareness of the mental and financial impact of their position as extranumerary. All of the above will result in substantial savings over time, as long as the temptation to fill these extranumerary positions with more unproductive workers be avoided. This measure must be understood as the opportunity to right-size the public sector at the smallest political cost. New hires meet the new criteria and must be justified by their contribution to growth and productivity. Further, it's imperative that public entitlements be overhauled to ensure these people who achieve permanent and pensionable appointment are productive and efficient contributors to national growth. Legislative enforcement may be necessary in order to prevent the ballooning cycle starting all over again and to prevent the political temptation to do so. Okay? So, we're going to take a break here in a second, but to nutshell it for you, their position, and they're starting from a point that I don't like, but it's great. It's a good exercise to undertake in theory in any event. They're starting at a point of trying to save money from the public sector, but not have a great deal of political fallout. And why are they doing that? Because if you could approach it from the point of least political fallout, because a lot of you are saying, I don't care what the political fallout is, vote them out and it don't matter to me. Right? If you can approach it from the position of it achieving the least political fallout, then the political directorate is more inclined to follow through with it. If you take it to the minister and take it to the prime minister and you go, well, you need to do this, but it can cost you the election, the prime minister can go, no, I ain't doing that. Right? So if you take it to the prime minister and he says, you can do this and still get elected, he's more inclined to say, take it to cabinet and convince the people to do it. All right? So send the people who don't do anything home and watch the public service become more efficient, revenue collection grow. How many times have we said, I know we got to take a break, how many times have I said that I'm fine with paying the level of taxes I do? I'm fine with paying more in taxes. What I'm not fine with is not getting the service and the value out of the public service and out of the government for my money. So if you make the system more efficient, you collect more revenue, it could work. Let's go to a break, and we'll be back on the other side. Stay tuned.
October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Other than skin cancer, Breast cancer is the most common cancer in women. Breast cancer is also the second leading cause of cancer death in women, after lung cancer. Can you help? Yes, you can. You can encourage women to take steps to help lower their risk of developing breast cancer and help find it early when it might be easy to treat. You can also help connect women facing breast cancer to patient programs and services they might need throughout their treatment. We encourage you to share these messages during Breast Cancer Awareness Month and throughout the year. 2021 has been a powerful reminder that we are all in this together, and our choices and actions have the power to protect the most vulnerable among us in a big way. By working together, we can inspire hope and become a force for good and help create greater awareness during Breast Cancer Awareness Month. To participate in our upcoming supplement, be sure to contact Guardian Media's advertising department today or your account executive.
Tired of banks forcing you to use technology to bank the way they want you to? Your convenience is important. So no matter what your banking needs, Commonwealth Bank's friendly staff are always available in branch for that personal one-on-one service. But when you choose technology, our online and mobile banking app offers you state-of-the-art functionality. The choice is yours. Commonwealth Bank. Bank the way you want.
You invest in your children, your home, and your community. But are you investing in your financial future? At CFAL, we specialize in investment management, retirement planning, mutual funds, and private wealth management. Our team of experts never stops helping you plan for tomorrow. Because tomorrow begins today. Call us at 502-7010 to see what our financial advisors can do for you. CFAL, growing wealth for future generations.
J.S. Johnson Insurance agents are the best. Reliable service, we've been on the scene, protected since 1919. J.S. Johnson Insurance has the test. You're always covered me. J.S. Johnson Insurance, peace of mind.
My Gateway is the centralized, safe, secure way to access and pay for government services online. Go to mygateway.gov.bs and log in to request a police character certificate, renew your passport or driver's license, and more. Receive emails confirming requests and alerts when documents are ready. You must have a valid, government-issued ID in order to collect documents. My Gateway is fast, easy, and convenient. Go to mygateway.gov.bs and register today.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. Fresh news, smart talk, all day.
Good afternoon, Bahamas. Welcome back to The Revolution here on Guardian Radio, 96.9 FM. My name is Juan McCartney. We're talking recommendations by the Economic Recovery Subcommittee on Public Service Reform to transform the public sector. Now, what they're saying is, okay, send everybody who isn't productive home and keep paying them. Offer them a buyout, right? Offer them, if they get another job, offer them reduced salaries, if X, Y, Z. And so the Prime Minister's coming to you, and he's going to say, okay, everybody who's not doing their job, we're going to send them home, but we're still going to pay them, right? And you're going to say to him, sir, a shepherd needle is not for smoking, okay? What are you talking about? Why in the hell would we pay people who don't do anything now to do even less? Here's what the committee says. It says, for the purpose of this exercise, we're not forwarding a position, but a concept which we believe is not only novel, but perhaps exportable, thereby advancing not only public service reform for the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, but a transformational philosophy that could be employed in the region and elsewhere. We're laying the foundation for a new public administrative model as it relates to the management of human capital in the public sector. What we propose represents an almost unimaginable departure from what has been considered in the past. We anticipate there will be pushback from several quarters. Specifically, public sector union leadership will be concerned about reduction of numbers in the bargaining unit. We recommend that union dues continue to be paid on total of persons that remain in service and that are designated as extranumerary. The dues coming from the extranumerary workers would be earmarked to skill set training along with continued training offered through government. Investment in training by government can speed up the process of extranumerary persons securing employment elsewhere, thereby resulting in discounted compensation and increased savings. The general public will have serious questions about officially endorsing and paying public sector employees that do not work. Communication measures will have to highlight the finite nature of this measure. They're anticipating that within 15 years or so, we'd have the numbers down to where we need them to be without paying for it. The fact that the cost incurred will result in debt reduction and increase of public sector expenditure revenue. The political sector will query this as being seen as wasteful and politically immoral. Every effort must be made to remind them that this simply recognizes the waste and immorality inherent in the current system and takes steps to correct it. It's recommended that a pilot program be conducted in order to gather the empirical data required to evaluate the efficacy of this methodology. We are recommending that the pilot is facilitated by the University of the Bahamas and the Ministry of the Public Service. In conclusion, the authors of this paper agree that this is a very rudimentary proposal of a concept that requires testing. We believe, however, that the premise is soundly based on the collective experience of the contributors and is suggested by existing research. We see this as a bold and innovative, yet not overly complicated approach to a national and regional issue that has been gingerly dealt with at best due to a culture of professional protectionism within the public sector. We believe that our proposal addresses the concerns of those within the public sector and the political directorate. We believe that this will be seen by rating and lending agencies as a bold and innovative effort to reduce public expenditure and to improve efficiencies. We believe this concept warrants further examination and development. All right, so that's the end of the paper. We got through the entire paper successfully. We only have a couple of minutes left. Let's see about your text messages. This says, well, how do you hire entry-level staff to work at a ministry that don't need them the week of election and they don't have the background of the ministry? If your background is in the medical field, how is it you're hired and sent to finance to work on a 3-year contract? It's really an injustice to that ministry. Yeah. This says, OMG novel. My suggestion said a part of their salary could be pooled. Wait, I'm sorry. This isn't. It says, Juan, sometimes I shake my head. I made all of these suggestions over 7 years ago. We're dying because we act like Ed Fields, Edison Sumner, and Tanya McCartney. I know that's your cousin. She all right with me. I'm about to say, right? Watch yourself. Nah, we're talking about Tanya McCartney around me. Edison Sumner, Ed Fields, Edison Sumner, and Tanya McCartney are the only people who can think. I said identify the excess workers, show them a list of skills the country needs, ask if they're interested, pay them for 2 years. Their work would be to learn win-win. That was over 8 years ago. I don't know who you are. That's a good suggestion. The country gets reskilled workers for the skills it needs. Families have skills to feed themselves, and the government payroll is reduced. My suggestion also said a part of their salary could be pooled to pay instructors, persons who were unemployed but had the necessary skills to teach. Another win. 8 years ago, Juan, where can I find the paper you just reviewed? Only I have it. So you can read about it. Like, we're going to write about it in The Guardian tomorrow. Or you can holler at Ed Fields. I don't know you personally to send it to you. One great show and analysis of public service. Indeed, it is oversized, unproductive, and mediocre. I watched my sister in senior management public service level over 20, maybe 30 years. She worked from home during COVID, going a few days on half days. Her work ethic is okay. She went to SAC, so basically trained well. But as I watch public service style, imagine a lot who lack the education, attitude, and training. Yes. This says, Mr. McCartney, what about the noble employee? However, their attitude is a big problem. How about if government employees contribute to their pensions? Agreed. Hey, Juan, I'm tired of creating cushion and excuses for government workers who are unproductive, mostly overweight women. Get rid of them? Oh, Lord. Leave these ladies alone. Juan, do you know how many times that I've walked into a government agency to pick up something and was told that the person dealing with that is on vacation? My question to them is, what if that person never returns? It'll take even longer. Juan, did that committee suggest new hires contribute 50% to their pensions? Says Juan, that's because you have morals and pride. I'm sure there will be at least a few people trying to get on that list, stay home, get paid, pension. They'll say, sign me up. This says they need to get rid of those. Says, sounds like what is happening at the bank. Says, where can I get a copy of this report? Appreciate you keeping us informed. Do you want Clint's job? I believe Clint's job was already taken. Says, sounds like what is happening at the bank. I'm trying to get some deeds back from a loan I got a couple of years ago. Paid the loan off, but there's something called a satisfaction process. It costs $84. Says they need to get rid of those managers who cannot go on vacation, who have to stay on the job to cover their incompetence and retain control. Any government employee who has accumulated more than 12 months vacation should be investigated. This says, Mr. McCartney, I'm genuinely trying to understand the benefit of paying someone who's not being productive. Is the goal not to save as much money as we can in the public sector by removing unproductive, unqualified persons? Why not just fire them or use the money to hire persons who will be productive? I'm truly trying to understand how this makes sense. It certainly is a counterintuitive and a, I would say, radical approach. But I get the idea that the political directorate would be more inclined to act if they saw it as not being political suicide, all right? Which sending thousands of people home is political suicide. No matter if you do it the day after you come in office and, they're going to forget. No, all right? It says, I actually like these ideas. If it can work, the public sector is oversaturated with people doing nothing. It's one, the PLP said the Bahamas is broke. They've just fired us, the Rotarians, volunteering at the COVID-19 centers to give PLP supporters a paid job. Really is a new day. Really? Let me look into that. All right. It says on the satisfaction text, that's very simple. I just did it last week. Go to the Island Revenue, take conveyance and pay. Done. Okay, we got to get out of here. You guys sent a lot of text messages. They're very good. Good afternoon, Juan. I work at a college. Working from home doesn't work. Home workers don't answer the phone. People need information immediately to apply for entry. Public comes flooding on the property. There's no one to assist them. They're complaining that they get one answer from the phone number given to them, no answer from the phone number given to them. We have to send them back home. You can see the frustration in their faces. That is bad business and a lot of inconvenience. Those home workers have to be closely supervised. Well, you may be right. Okay, we gotta go. You guys take care out there. We'll be back tomorrow. God spare life. And have a great day, Bahamas.